This week, we're going to talk about an important topic, which is pelvic health, specifically the fact that June is Pelvic Organ Prolapse Awareness Month. And while this by and large affects women, and roughly 50% of women, pelvic health in general is a consideration for all ages and all genders because it's very common to develop symptoms of incontinence or discomfort in the pelvic area as we age. And in fact, I was looking at some of the statistics for Pelvic Organ Prolapse Awareness Month, and it's not even something that's explicitly limited to, particularly related to aging. Um, there are many things in our that can lead to the shifting of the organs in our bodies, surgeries, for example, or any number of things can cause a shifting that leads to a bulge um, or pain or urinary or rectal symptoms. So I think that it's important that we take a moment to acknowledge that it's a bit taboo, I think, to speak openly about pelvic health. I believe that it is getting better. And I think it's getting better because, like most things, more of us are being willing to talk about it. It reminds me a lot of the statistics around miscarriage, and how when I first had friends who were going through experiences of trying to have a child for the first time, just how many of them, oh, I couldn't believe it, were experiencing miscarriages, and then only learning through that experience just how common it is to have miscarriages before you have a successful pregnancy, and like how frustrating it is that that information is not shared. And so you start to get into that cycle of blame. And I think that that's just what we really want to avoid, especially in this community, understanding that blame of the physical body is so common, especially when we have chronic conditions or chronic pain or chronic dieting or a great deal of stress or any number of things. Honestly, there are a million reasons that the outside world convinces us that we should be shaming our physical body. And our physical body is what makes it possible for us to experience the world. And so that makes me so frustrated and sad, but I've been there too. And that's why I feel so passionately about making sure that we're having the conversations we need to have to release the shame and the guilt of experiences that we're going through. So I thought it would be helpful to share my own story, um, because I did not have pelvic organ prolapse, but I did have quite a bit of tailbone pain and hip pain for a very long time as one of my many pain symptoms. And it was really around the time of the pandemic that um, I mentioned to a physical therapist I was working with at the time that I was having these tailbone pains and that I also happened to have really bad constipation. And she said, have you thought about trying a pelvic PT? And I had thought for the longest time that the only person who would ever go to a pelvic PT is someone who had given birth. I thought it was just a postnatal thing, and so I said, well, I've never had a baby, so I've never gone to a pelvic PT. And then she enlightened me that pelvic PT is for everyone, even people without uteruses. And that was kind of like a moment. And I had had tailbone pain, I'd say like a solid 10 years at least, where to the point where like I had cushions on everywhere I went. And like if there was like a restaurant and it had wooden seating, I was very afraid of like, how am I going to make it through this dinner? I would be like very distracted, really, really uncomfortable at one pain. And um, yeah, so going to a pelvic floor specialist was just unbelievably life changing for me. Like I couldn't believe what a difference I felt in within a few weeks or so of having some treatment, doing the exercises I was told to do, the stretching I was told to do, and recognizing how much I was not allowing my pelvic floor to release because it spends a lot of time. Your pelvic floor is at the bottom of your torso. It spends a lot of time acting against gravity to keep your organs in place. Um, and so it also needs an opportunity to release. We need that balance. So I share that kind of vulnerable experience to let you know that, um, you don't have to have a uterus, you don't have to have had a child, you don't have to have gone through a major like um, surgery on your reproductive organs. Like there are many reasons why a person may end up having discomfort in their pelvis, and pelvic organ prolapse being, a 50% incidence rate among women. It just goes to show you that we're not talking about this enough. So I hope that you will explore the research available in this week's newsletter, and that you will find a safe space where you can talk about the things that you are concerned about when it comes to your pelvic health. And if you need a referral in your area, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I know a number of Pilates and physiotherapy folks who specialize in this area and who'd be happy to direct you to a great, trustworthy resource. See you next week.